Hello and welcome to the Castaway Pop Punk Vinyl podcast. Each week I ask my guests which 3 albums and 1 book they would take with them if they were stranded on a desert island. So sit back, relax and enjoy 2 people randomly talking about the music they love.
Okay, Tom, shut the fuck up. Okay, here we go.
Welcome everyone to episode 1 of the Castaway Pop Punk Vinyl podcast. My first guest needs no introduction, but I'm going to give her one anyway. Pop punk queen, breaker of many young teen hearts back in the day, lead vocalist in the band Hey Monday, winner of the Voice USA 2012. Her first solo country album, Frame by Frame, released in 2013, charted at number 10 in the Billboard 200. Guest vocalist with countless artists, All Time Low, Yellow Card, Icy Stars, Chris Young, and also the first ever country singer to play at the Warped Tour. I can't quite believe I'm saying this, but Cassadee Pope, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, James. Thanks for having me. I'm honored to be your first episode.
It feels crazy that you are my first guest, but it's really awesome. So thank you very much for being here. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
So this podcast is, we're not really going to talk about kind of your career and stuff. We're just going to talk about the music that's influenced you, because I feel like music and what it means to you, especially people that are in the, are musicians, and I'll be, my guests will be artists and musicians. So I think fans really want to know what drove you in the first place to become an artist. And I think it's really cool to see behind that curtain. So
yeah,
you are no longer Cassadee Pope living in the USA. You are a castaway on a desert island. There's food, and stuff, so you can survive. You're probably there for about a year. I'm just going to make that all up. But you've been given 3 albums and 1 book to take with you. So we're going to talk about those 3 albums and 1 book, your relationship with those albums and why you chose them, etc., and any stories you have connected to them. So without further ado, what would be your first album that you would take on a desert island?
My first album I would take is Come On Over by Shania Twain.
Solid choice.
It's so good for so many reasons. I was just, because I really wanted to have great answers for this podcast, so I did go through and listen again, and she was so ahead of her time as far as the subjects she would be talking about in her songs. And one of the songs that wasn't the most popular by any means, because obviously there's Man I Feel Like a Woman and That Don't Impress Me Much, and Come On Over, so many, You're Still the One. But the one song that really stuck out to me this past time I listened back was If You Want to Touch Her, Ask. And it's such a simple song about if you want to date a girl, or if you want to get to know her, if you want to kiss her, if you want, you just ask. Like, there's we don't like games as women. I don't think anybody does. Everybody just has been taught that's how you're supposed to date, play the game. No one actually wants that. Everybody just wants to be real and let their intentions be known. And I love that the song is sexy and cool, but it's literally being like, hey guys, stop beating around the bush. You're either like trying to date her and be with her, or you're just trying to have fun. Either way, just let her know. Which I think is just like a really bold thing for it shouldn't be, but was bold for a woman to say back in the 90s. And then like also for That Don't Impress Me Much, just also, I guess pushing back on the whole power dynamic of a man who might have a lot of money, or a man who might have social status or whatever, pushing back on that and being like, that doesn't impress me. I want somebody who can keep me warm at night and who's a great person. I just think that's cool to hear from a high profile singer such as Shania Twain, and she, like, I feel was single-handedly responsible, along with so many great other artists during that time, of like giving country music a pop spin, and making it okay, and making it cross over, and making it a global sound rather than it sticking in America only, so 100%. I also think she's paved the way in a lot of ways of country music making its way overseas and everywhere in the world.
Yeah, I totally agree. So me and you are actually similar age. I'm just a year older than you. So we would have discovered this album kind of at the same sort of age, I guess. But my memories of it are my dad driving me and my mates to football games or soccer games, and my
Yep.
dad would just play this album over and over again. So
I love your dad.
he absolutely loved it. But I guess kind of in retrospect now, looking back at that album, you're able to reflect on the themes and how important they were. Do you think you felt that at the time, or was it just the music, or was it those themes that influenced you as well?
I think there was a level of understanding. I mean, I wasn't even 10 yet. Yeah, 97, I was 8. So I know that I felt like I wanted to dance and I loved the melodies, but I think the boldness of the lyrics and the unapologetic way in which she delivered the lyrics did stick with me because I've always been influenced by her sass and her personality and her honesty and her lyrics. So even if it didn't completely sink in like how big of a deal some of these things she was talking about were, I think that stuck with me
Yeah,
over time.
cool. I think my favorite track on that album has to be "Don't Be Stupid."
Oh,
Um,
it's so good.
it's such a great melody, and just like it just drives all the way through it. It doesn't stop, and it's just yeah, a really great track. Um,
Yeah.
but it's kind of the flip side of that don't impress me much. It's kind of speaking to the other side of a relationship, which is, relax. I like you for who you are. It's okay. You don't have to
Right.
impress me too much. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like you don't have to keep looking over my shoulder when I open a letter or a mail or whatever the lyric is. Like I just
Yeah.
think it's like not something that you really want to admit in a song. Like, hey, my partner's kind of fucking jealous and crazy, but it's
Yeah.
it's like probably an overly exaggerated version of what she's experienced, but who knows, maybe it's something she actually experienced and we've all been there. We've all been have had a relationship that was like that, unfortunately. So
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's cool to admit that in a song.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. So that's album number one. Do you remember the first time you bought the album, first time you heard it?
I mean, I remember specifically the house that we lived in. I think we were in Boynton Beach, Florida. We moved around a lot when I was a kid, but this one house we were in probably the longest. And I had this really colorful bed, like duvet bed set. And I just remember I also had this like little tiny TV set with like the VCR built in. And I would put in like little, my little movies. I put in Wizard of Oz all the time, but I had a Shania Twain VHS like of her concert, and I forget even where it was, who put it out, but I put that in and grabbed my hairbrush and would just rock out in my room when I was like 8
Yeah.
years old to this album and flip my hair and I'd take my shirt and like put it, I don't know if you've ever seen girls do this or anybody do this really, where you take your shirt and you flip it into itself so it's a
Yeah, yeah,
crop
yeah.
top. I just, made my own crop tops trying to be Shania Twain. So yeah, I remember those moments vividly.
She was an icon of yours then.
Oh
Have
yeah, big
have you
time.
ever met her?
I met her in a situation that I did not expect, which took me completely off guard. It was so crazy. I met her backstage at a 21 Pilots concert,
Wow.
and I'd gone back there. I drank quite a bit that night because I loved 21 Pilots and I was having the time of my life.
I can
And
imagine,
I
yeah.
just, yeah, and I was back there through mutual friends, and I heard her voice, her talking voice, and I was like, why do I hear Shania Twain right now? What the fuck is
Yeah.
going on? And then she like starts walking in my direction with her ball cap, and I'm like, that's Shania Twain. And I just was not prepared to meet her, but I met her and she was really sweet and knew my name, which was like crazy to me. And then I didn't ask for a picture, but thankfully after she had turned to walk away, she turned back around and was like, do you want a picture? I was like, yes. And we took a picture and I cried for like 10 minutes after that. But
Yeah, I bet.
yeah.
Wow.
But since then, she actually invited me and a bunch of artists to this little pre-show hang before her show here at Bridgestone Arena in Nashville, and it was really cool. She like did basically a massive meet and greet with a bunch of us, a lot of female artists, and did a little speech reception thing with champagne and hors d'oeuvres and stuff. And so that was like my second time meeting her, which I was glad I got the first one out of the way, because this was
Yeah.
a little bit more high pressure situation. So
Yeah. Well,
she's awesome.
they always say don't meet your heroes, but it sounds like you had a great experience. I remember meeting Tom DeLonge of Blink, who
Oh,
we'll touch on. But it was all part of he played with Angels and Airwaves at the Astoria in London, which doesn't exist anymore. But I
oh,
think it was 2008, and he did like
okay.
a meet and greet thing, paid £10, and you can meet the band. And so we were allowed in, and he was just on this step, and he was on the phone to his wife at the time, I imagine. And he looked at all of us, and you could tell he just like, oh, I've got to speak to these people. And then
Oh,
he walked off a bit, finished his phone call, came back, and I had a Blink CD which I wanted him to sign, and I could almost tell he was a bit like, oh, I would like to sign an Angels and Airwaves album for you, but okay. And
oh,
but then he kind of relaxed into it. It was really nice, and he was quite funny. But yeah, I just thought, oh,
yeah,
you're not. It wasn't the experience I was hoping for, but you know, I
yeah. I mean, what are you gonna do? Like, you gotta go into meeting your hero. Like, they're your hero, but they're human, and they're
yeah,
a
exactly.
person who might be not be having the best day. And like,
Yeah, like he's away from his
that's so
family.
hard.
Yeah.
That's so hard though, because you just want it to be like dick jokes and
Yeah,
fun and
exactly. Yeah.
happy.
Yeah, it's only when you
Yeah.
get old you're like, oh, I kind of appreciate how he was because, yeah, he was in a different country, away from his family for months on end. And
Oh
he
God,
and
yeah.
he said in a recent interview, he's like, oh, people think they know me what because I've released 6, 7 albums. Like, you have no idea who I am. And it's a very
Totally.
fair point. Yeah.
Totally.
Um, but yeah, Shania Twain coming
That's a good
over.
segue though.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
what's your album number two?
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and go with "Take Off Your Pants and Jacket" by Blink 182. Um, yeah, this only came out a few years later, in 2001, apparently.
I can't believe that. Yeah, 2001.
It's
It
so weird.
feels like yesterday, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I just love that, like, my parents just let me listen to that at that age. It was
I
so,
know.
I mean, I got the parental advisory one. I remember my mom like getting it for me because I begged her to get it for me, and opening the packaging, and it was so creative and fun, and all the little cutouts of the pants and the jacket. And like,
Yeah.
I was a kid, I didn't know that it was a play on words.
I
Take off
know,
your
right?
pants
Yeah,
and
I didn't
jacket.
know for years. Yeah.
No clue. Um, but I remember being old enough at this point to know, like, wow, this sounds really good. Like, the production sonically, you could hear every instrument, everything felt really present, but not in your face to where it was just like a bunch of noise, like rock music can sometimes be. Um, I remember thinking, like, how many hooks can fit on one song
Yeah.
between the guitar lines to the actual like vocal melodies to the bass lines. Like, Mark is playing like super catchy things on bass, and um just everything about the way it sounded just struck me. But the actual like subject matter of some of these songs were so important to me, because it was that came out like right during my parents' divorce. I was 11 years old, and I remember, you know, the song "Stay Together for the Kids," and just being blown away that these dudes that were older than me and this massive superstar band were singing about their parents' divorce. And I now know that's like Tom DeLonge's story. And it really made me feel seen and heard, and made me feel safe. And I think that might have been like the first time on like a very deep level I felt comforted by a song. Not because it's uplifting, but because it talks about the things that I was going through,
Yeah, for
and the
sure.
struggles, and just like, your parents fighting and how hard that is. So
Yeah.
that song in particular really stood out to me. But I also, another favorite of mine is "Give Me One Good Reason." And
That's literally my favorite Blink song of all time.
mine too.
Nothing's topped it since. I mean, I love
Same.
Blink. I love Blink so much. Like they're my favorite band, and even just thinking about this album just gives me the goosebumps. But that song, yeah, it's
Yeah.
interesting to hear what you've got to say about it because
Well, I don't think I've ever heard anybody else say that about that's their favorite song. I feel the same way because of obviously it's catchy, yada yada yada. But the the fact that it's still relevant about the fact that a younger generation is constantly having to look at the older generation like, hey, did you ever think that maybe the way you've done things is wrong
yeah,
and we should maybe change things up? Like, do you not see history repeating itself right now? Like, why aren't we allowed to dress the way we want to dress and date who we want to date and be who we want to be without you having something to say about it? And
yeah,
it never ends well. Like, I love that there's like obviously this tiny like sliver of anarchy that I just love and I'm drawn to, but also just the inclusivity of like the lyrics of like, let us let us be us.
yeah.
We don't want to end up like you. No offense. So if you don't like the way we dress or the way we live, I mean that's kind of a compliment. And
Exactly.
so I dig that. I've always loved that song for that reason.
Yeah. For me, it was like, so it's a nice, pretty guitar intro. And then Tom's vocals, he's shouting, isn't he? But he's got, when he goes high, back in the day, it just sounded so good. A bit like the chorus of, Stay Together for the Kids. Just so
Yes.
powerful. And it doesn't start quiet. It's just proper in there with, what he wants to say. Um, but it's a celebration of being different. And that's, I think, because me and my friends at that point were like, we love Slipknot, we're getting into Blink, we love, Green Day, we're loving music that a lot of people in school don't understand, and girls
Yeah.
that we're into don't get it, so we're kind of a bit outcast. And then you hear "Give Me Good One Good Reason," it's like, oh fuck everyone else, like we're the cool kids because
Right.
Tom was screaming at the top of his lungs, like we don't want to fit in. So yeah, that was
Yeah.
it was just liberating for me. I was like, right, this is the best band on the planet, full stop, forever now.
Yeah,
Yes.
forever. I'm forever a loyal fan. And yeah, you make a good point about how he just comes in guns blazing. Like usually verses are kind of low and, tame and then you blow up on the chorus. Like
Yeah.
that's something different about it too. He just came in full-fledged, like full voice Tom with like that cool raspiness to it and
Yeah, yeah.
nasal but raspy.
Yeah, there's
So
just one
good.
line in there which I couldn't relate to, which is ditching school almost every single day. We never ditched school. We were quite good at school.
Oh, same. I would never. I'm like I love, bending the rules here and there, but I'm at the core kind of a rule follower,
Yeah.
kind of kind
Yeah,
of.
definitely, yeah. Um, yeah, so that album is just unreal. Like you said about, Mark's bass lines, in online songs, and yeah, the production's just crazy on it.
Yeah.
Travis's drum parts. Even now,
Oh,
if you try and I try and watch YouTube videos of how to play Reckless Abandon on the drums, still cannot get it. I'm like, I don't understand what this guy is doing.
it's inhumane. It's not normal. I
No,
don't understand. I think that's it too. I mean, I talked about thank you for bringing this up because I don't know how I missed this, but like for the drums to be catchy,
yeah,
like
exactly.
they're hooks in the drums, like they're the freaking intro to was it First Date? The
Yeah, yeah,
like that whatever triplet thing is
I
so
know.
iconic. Um, and those are hooks. Like he's a catchy drummer. Isn't
Yeah,
that weird?
yeah, yeah. It's crazy, and he kind of started that whole thing, and no one's
Yeah.
come close to him, I don't think, since people tried. Like, I mean, the level of drumming ability within pop punk music has, gone through the roof compared to what it used to be. But no one touches Travis even to this day. Um,
No, no. I mean, he's just his own beast. Yeah. But I don't want to forget the is it Happy Holidays, you bastard?
yeah,
Or
Happy Holidays.
I God, I just love that there's an interlude on the album that is that vile and that
Yeah,
it just sounds like they came up with it at band practice and were like, fuck it, well, let's put it on the album. Or
yeah.
like actually don't know the story behind that. Like
No,
I wonder if they played it live and the fans demanded it be recorded or something.
yeah, maybe. I don't know. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's so much fun. So what are your thoughts on like Blink these days? Do you hope for a Tom return, or are you kind of
I mean, I love Angels and Airways, so um I don't think I'm deprived of Tom's talent. But
true?
and I've seen Blink with Matt Skiba, who's amazing, from Alkaline Trio. He's got a great voice and he's
Yeah.
like such a good fit.
Mm.
Um, and Mark still has that on stage banter that he just does so well, and he's still just an incredible entertainer, and I'm just thinking about him every day,
Yeah,
sending him
yeah,
healing vibes.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I think all of us Blink fans, like we would shit our pants if like he actually came back. I mean, it's one of those that you don't want to like wait for because you might be waiting till you die, but
Yeah, I
it's
know.
like if it happened, it would be the best thing ever.
Well, the problem here is he kind of alludes to it in interviews, and it's like, are you going to? It's like, yeah, one day
Or,
it will happen. But
oh,
Angels and Airwaves are great. Tom seems really happy with his life. He's proper
mhm,
content. I think he's had a tough time for a while. He's happy. He doesn't need Blink again. That's not
right.
what he's about anymore. And yeah, just sending Mark, all our love all the
Mm,
time. And yeah,
yep. Yep.
we'll just see what happens.
Love those guys.
Yeah, cool. So album number 3. That's all you get. 3 albums. What else are you bringing?
um, I decided on Under My Skin by Avril Lavigne.
Yep.
She much like Shania, felt very bold in the things that she said, but mainly is just in the way that she like presented herself. She was always very sort of not aggressive, but maybe like aggressively herself. Like she unapologetically, I've used that word already, but like she wasn't afraid to show up as an assertive woman who knows what she wants, knows what she likes, what she doesn't like.
Yep.
And as a young girl, like that was cool to see because from an early age, we're told to be small and be sweet and be cute and be nice. And we're never told, like, stand your ground, like, say what you feel and don't let people push you around. And that's all that I saw when I saw Avril Lavigne. So I loved Let Go, her first album. It's amazing. I think the reason I chose Under My Skin instead was because there was this sort of darker thing that
Yeah.
I had never heard. I had heard from her, but I think Let Go is a lot more pop, and this
Yeah.
is more rock.
Yeah.
Um, and I loved, like, obviously My Happy Ending is just such a big hit. But I actually think that's my favorite track on the album, probably because Butch Walker produced it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I love Butch Walker, and I I love the dynamic that song brings of like the verses being super down and then the chorus is exploding. Um, Obviously, at that young age, we loved to be sad, and
Yeah.
I loved sad songs. And I was sort of getting into my preteens, so I was like all about a heartbreak song. And yeah, the sonically again, like I think I just lean toward, you know, the kind of music that I can hear every instrument. And
Hmm.
um it makes like the hair on my arms stand up when like a chorus hits and it's like anthemic like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, like I love Nobody's Home. Um I mean, Take Me Away, so good. I love that as a
Yeah. An opening track.
album intro. Yeah, like the first track you hear. Um
Yeah.
yeah, it's just awesome.
Yeah. I almost couldn't believe it. Like you said, the difference between the first and the second album.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, this. It feels like this is Avril Lavigne being Avril Lavigne rather than a new pop artist that's come onto the scene, launched a debut album. Okay, fine. Yep, she probably conformed a little bit. I don't know, but
Mm.
the second album, it feels like her. And it's interesting you mentioned Butch Walker. I mean, he produced Freak Out as well, which is kind of the last one of
Yeah.
the end tracks, and that song to me is just absolutely awesome as well. I think my favorite track on the album is either Freak Out or um how does it feel?
Oh, yes. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, I love that song. Yes.
especially the bit,
Oh,
in the like the kind of middle break, not breakdown, but it slows right down, and it's just got, almost sounds like a ticking clock,
yeah.
like a
Yeah.
metronome feel, but she's deliberately kept it in there.
Yeah, no, there's so many like little things that are being used so much now. Like even My Happy Ending, the kind of like drum loop that starts the song, that kind of does like a crescendo and it gets louder and louder and the song hits. That's done a lot now. And I think also like her voice always really resonated with me. I There's something that it kind of feels a little bit like Celine Dion-esque. Like there's
Yeah,
this little bit of tension that makes that like sound all
yeah,
the time, and I've never been able to like replicate it, but
yeah.
I've spent a lot of time trying to replicate that. But her sort of like the break in her voice when she kind of yodels a little bit at the end of phrases, that's always been one of my favorite things about her voice. So I've always like just thought her voice was super unique. You don't have to wonder who's singing. Like as soon
No,
as she starts singing, it's Avril.
yeah,
And that to me is like a true vocalist.
yeah, for sure. I mean, her voice is insane, and I wouldn't say it's underrated because she's a worldwide megastar, so
Right.
people get it. But um, what the hell? The chorus in "What the Hell"? It's not on this album, but that
Yeah.
melody line where it just creeps like da 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 da. It's like, oh my god, how the hell do you do that? And then you hear it live. It's
It's
like, oh
so
okay,
hard.
that's like studio production, whatever. You hear it live, doesn't miss the note on it. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like no, she's not underrated as an artist, but I think as a singer she is. Like I don't think people realize Avril Lavigne is a very good singer.
Yeah.
I remember I got to sing with her on The Voice. I covered I'm With You, and
No way.
earlier in the season. Yeah, earlier in the season. And then I got far enough to where they were like, "Hey, if you could sing with anybody, who would it be?" And I was like, "Probably Avril Lavigne." They're like, "Okay, cool. We're gonna get her to come sing with you." And because all of us like on the finale got to sing with our heroes, and I sang I'm With You with her, and it was like insane. I was like, "Holy
I
shit,
would have
she
just died, I
sounds."
think, yeah.
I know. I was like, what is happening right now?" And she sounded just like the record, and it was like the same key. She didn't take it down a half step like I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
And
I'm not
it
saying
was
you
just
personally, but me,
insane.
I'm a singer myself, and I have to drop keys all the time.
When you're like, yeah, on a tour, 5 days of the week, it's like probably best to save your voice.
Exactly,
But
yeah.
she showed up just ready and just blew it out. And I was like, wow, she's still got it
Yeah,
as of, 2012. So she's still doing it. She's still sounding amazing.
her voice doesn't change. That's the craziest thing. Like artists'
Yeah.
voice mature, but Avril's hasn't. Even to like the man that never ages, Billy Joe Armstrong of Green Day.
Yes.
His voice is the same, but it's matured. But hers just, yeah, it's just. And lyrically, she writes all the lyrics. She's involved in the writing, and
Yeah, I mean, I totally see her as like a rock icon.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
I see her as that because like that's to me it stuck out during that time of pop music. It was different. It wasn't fluffy, and she obviously had her journey through those different vibes, but like her first record was a little bit more like acoustic driven and just sort of delicate. It still had its rock moments, and then this album was like rock to me. And
yeah,
even like all of her pop songs had like real guitar and real drums and synth
yeah,
here and there, but like she never strayed far away from her like punkness. She's
no,
always been punk to me.
yeah, for sure. I mean, that first album is great, like Ordinary World, and
Yeah.
yeah, those kind of like latter half of the album tracks are probably the best for me. Yeah, they're so good.
Yeah,
Um, so,
agreed.
so before we talk about the book, I just wanted to
Hmm.
ask you two things. Well, first of all, show you something. Which are you currently? Have you got Instagram up on your phone?
Oh,
I
yes,
just
I
I
can
just
pull
want
it
to
up.
send you a couple of pictures. So I found these old pictures of myself singing in my band. Look at the t-shirt I'm wearing. I've just
Oh
inboxed
my
it.
God, you're wearing it.
I'd
You're
for,
wearing a Hey Monday shirt.
I'd forgotten
I
all
love
about this.
it. I remember that shirt. I remember it being like the merch team came up with it, and I was like, I don't even know what that is it a monster? Like but then I was like, honestly, I would wear it, so let's do it. And
Yeah,
it
it's really
sold
cool. And
great.
then, yeah, I think I got it when I was like traveling in America, and I got it in like Hot Topic or
Hot
somewhere.
Topic.
Yeah,
That's where we sold it. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, it looks great. I love it. Look
it's a
how low
great.
your guitar is.
That is me just trying to be Tom DeLonge.
We all were. It's fine.
Yeah.
What was your band called?
So we were called Count the Days,
Count the
and the reason
Days.
why we're
Okay.
called Count the Days is because you know the band Cartel.
Oh, yes.
They have a song, and I forget what the song's called. Me and my friend were just sitting in my room, and like, what can we call ourselves? And the song came on. And it starts off with "Let's count the days." It might be called Lucky Street or something. I'm like,
Oh, yes.
count the
From,
days.
yeah,
Yes.
there it
So
is.
yeah, that's it. And we googled it, and no one else called Count the Days, so we're like, great.
You
And
got
that's
to Google it.
I know. Yeah,
The first thing you do.
yeah.
And
Because
you're
we're like,
either really
oh,
happy or just devastated
yeah,
with the
exactly. Like,
results.
because you know every band name in the world seems to be taken these days.
Yes. Oh my God, I'm so glad you sent me these. These are awesome.
And my second question was, have you heard of the Shires?
Oh, yes. I love them so much.
So I went to school with Chrissy from the Shires, and
Wow.
yeah, so we're in the same year. And then I've got a song. I'll have to send you the link. So I did a song with her again years ago before she was in the Shires.
Oh,
So I'll send you that. And but I just thought you're
yeah.
from Nashville. She's always over in Nashville. You know both huge country artists and fans. So you must have crossed
Yeah,
paths at some point.
we've crossed paths many times, and now I mean they're friends of mine. I love them. I don't get to see them obviously that much, but the first time I met them was a Gibson show in London when I think we both were signed to Big Machine at the same time,
Right.
and that's why they were there. And then um, my boyfriend's British and sort of knows he was in that show Nashville, so like got very plugged into the music world of Nashville, but also like obviously country artists from in the UK, and the Nashville cast would go to the UK and play shows and stuff. And I don't know for sure how they met, but I also like know them through him more so.
Yeah.
But they're so good, and like I just I always get annoyed thinking about like why haven't they broke here? Like come on, they're so good. Their
Yeah. That's
harmonies are insane.
uh, so Chrissy is such a talent. She's been singing since she was tiny, probably like 5. And I remember being in
Mm,
school, and she was when you have like sleepovers, because my sister was friends with her really more
yeah,
so than me, and she would just go to a piano. We were just kids in middle school, if that means anything to you. I don't know.
yeah.
We were like 12 or something, playing the piano, just like unbelievable voice. Uh, and she just sang all the time. It's the only thing she cared about. And I was
Hmm.
like, your passion for this is insane. Like everyone was like, give it up, kind of thing.
Mm.
It's never going to happen. And then, but that she has so much like tenacity, and eventually it paid off. Cool. So finally, then you've got one book. So you have to read one book for a year. Pick wisely.
Which honestly probably is accurate because I'm a slow
I
reader.
know that I said to like so many people that I've asked to be on this, like one book in brackets if you have one.
Yeah. If you read.
Yeah.
No, I do read, and I mostly read a lot of like self-help or anti-racism books or whatever.
Yeah.
But for this is sort of like it touches on therapy and it touches on self-help, but it's also just a really like funny, lighthearted, also sort of heavy at times book called Maybe You Should Talk to Someone by Lori Gottlieb or got yeah,
I
Gottlieb.
think you got that
Lieb.
right. Yeah.
Um a friend recommended it because I've been going to therapy since 2017, like pretty regularly, and really believe in it and advocate for it.
Yeah.
Um, and I really loved the idea. The book is written by a therapist who goes through her own situation, like a big life changing situation where she needs to go to therapy. Um, and hearing her process of finding her therapist, being able to kind of like know what the therapist she's seeing is doing because she's a therapist is really funny.
Yeah.
Um, but it also gave me this like really amazing insight on like a therapist's brain and how, you know, there's sort of this time where I've had this happen where I've sort of like grown out of my therapist. And there's this chapter about where that happens for her with one of her patients, and it's like she doesn't get to know if she ends up staying with the guy that cheated on her. She doesn't The therapist doesn't get to, you know, keep talking to her and keep getting like updates on her life. And these therapists care about us. And it's like so intense to hear like, oh yeah, so when we as the patient move on with our lives and go off and fly away like the little birdies that we are, they're back, you know, on the ground like, okay, cool, you know, I'm so happy for you, but now I'm just never going to know what's going on with you, and that's weird because I know everything about you.
Yeah, that is
um
true.
yeah, and just the perspective that she gives from a therapist's perspective is like so cool. It's funny, and it's it's sad. There's many parts that are sad, but it's also, if you're someone like me who looks at a therapist and is like, God, you must have your shit figured out, it makes you feel better because they don't.
Yeah.
And they have their own struggles and their own ways of thinking and their own ways of kind of not seeing red flags when they're dating or whatever. So that stuff was just really cool to read about as well. So it's got everything. It's got romance, it's got comedy, it's got sadness and depth that I think could keep me company for a year on an island.
Yeah, for sure. I think, yeah, the cover of it, you'd probably be forgiven for thinking that it was a self-help book, um,
Yeah.
rather than, you know, a memoir. Um,
Hmm.
but for me, I think the book showcases just how human we all are. So, despite you know, despite all of her training and expertise on the subject of therapy, she still needs a
Hmm.
therapist herself because her loved ones and friends, you know, they can only provide so much. I also think there's a
Yeah.
bit of a stigma when it comes to therapy. Probably not so much anymore. Like we're getting better at understanding it,
Hmm.
to the point where big companies are starting to kind of offer therapy as part of their package
Oh, I
because
love that.
mental health is such a uh, you know, it was always a taboo, but now it's kind of, you know, we all, if your mental health's stable, you know, good for you, but it can, you know, switch like a light. And
Exactly.
one day you can wake up and, the best I've heard it described is this book isn't so much about depression. It's about, you know, dealing with a trauma that's happened and kind of, figuring out,
Hmm.
you know, other things about yourself. But, um, when you're depressed, so some people confuse depression with kind of like feeling sad, but
Right.
depression can hit people who are at the top of their game and have no reason to be depressed other than the color in their life is just gone, so they can't see color in the world anymore and they don't understand why. um,
Mm.
and that can happen to the most fragile people in the world and the most put together people in the world.
No, I know this all pertains to the book because like I think the thing that um is important to remember is like it can be preventative. You know, therapy can be a preventative where you don't have to wait for a huge crisis to start going, which I did.
Right.
And it would have been so nice to have the tools to deal with that crisis I was in already. Like it would have been nice to have already done the work, and but I had to figure that out and the hard way. And now I know, now I've had crises happen to me since then, and I have had the tools, and I am so grateful. And I think like with this book, the thing that people don't realize is every therapist has a therapist. I think in the book she had like a therapist that she checks in with, and they sort of like make sure that she's following protocol or whatever, but she wanted a therapist specifically for this situation she was in. Like a married man with kids, like she really wanted that as
Yeah.
her therapist. So but generally, like if you, anyone listening, if you want to go to therapy and your therapist doesn't have a therapist, that's a bad sign.
Okay. That's good advice,
So
actually, because that was something
yeah,
people might not know at all. Because people assume therapists, they don't need a therapist; they're a therapist.
right,
Yeah,
right. I mean, think about it, we're not therapists, but how much better are we at giving advice to our friends and family than taking our own damn advice?
exactly.
We're
Yeah,
so much better. I'm like, who am I? Like, I would never do that awesome thing I just told that person to do, but that was like a really good idea.
yeah.
um, that's like a therapist, they're like, yeah, we know our shit, but we don't always take our own advice and they need people to check them too.
Because at the end of the day, we are just animals with highly intelligent brains that don't understand. Don't you know the world that we've been born into. It's very complicated and very difficult.
Oh
Almost all of the
God,
time.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I think this book as well also highlights how we kind of how close we are to our own selves. So therefore, we don't look at the wider picture because we're so involved. I think that there's
Mhm.
one point in the book where her therapist says, "I think there's a bigger issue than just your breakup," and she kind of thinks he's a bit mad. Like, are you smoking something? Like, I'm clearly just upset because she doesn't have
Right.
that, you know, um, what's the word?
Wider
Real,
lens, like
yeah,
she's yeah.
she doesn't understand the position she's in, and it just takes, you know, that other person to kind of get it out of her. So that's really
I've
interesting.
had so many moments like that. Like reading that book, I was like, gosh, I've had that where it's like, have you ever thought you're in this position because of your childhood? Like, okay, classic
Yeah,
therapy session, you know, lesson, but like it's true, like a lot of times we end up repeating patterns or trying to fix something from our childhood that traumatized us and and we end up in these situations. So like I would read the book and be like, God, it's the worst moment when your therapist says that and you're like, yes, you're right.
yeah, I know.
And I'm paying
Yeah,
you how much to tell me this?
I know. Yeah,
Yeah.
but there's no kind of I guess so. The book's received a lot of criticism about kind of there's no what's the point to it because there's no kind of that firework ending. She found the perfect guy and lived happily ever after. But it doesn't
Yeah.
need a point because the point is it's about human. It's about our lives, isn't it? And at the end of the day, it's what does human life have a grander point to it? I guess
Right.
it's just all about understanding ourselves, and that's it. The journey of life, trying to make yourself better, kind of
Yeah.
your understanding better, so therefore make yourself a better person. That's the point of it.
I
Um,
wonder if the people who said that go to therapy.
yeah,
It's like, the book's about the journey, like you said. It's like that's the fun part about it, and she doesn't have to like this is a real person telling a true story, and her story's not over. So what is she gonna wait to release the book till she finds her happy ending? And like, by the way, your happy ending is still not the ending. It's like you're happy, so there's you're not it's not done until you're dead.
yeah,
um
exactly, yeah,
so like she would just never release a book. You're
yeah.
waiting till the ending. um so yeah, I definitely disagree with that criticism. I think the journey is so entertaining and awesome. The book's the payoff.
Exactly, yeah. Just, learn a
Yeah.
bit about yourself, hold a mirror up to your own life and, have some, self-reflection. There's nothing wrong
Yeah.
with that. Yeah.
No, agreed.
Cool. So I think, we're done. So recap, your three albums are Come On Over by Shania Twain, Under My Skin, Avril Lavigne, and Take Off Your Bandage Jacket by Blink-182. And your book, Maybe You Should Talk to Someone,
Yeah.
by the author that I can never pronounce her name.
Lori.
Laurie, yeah.
Lori G.
Just before I let you go, um, we said we wouldn't talk about your career so much, but you're still very much, going strong in your career. I recently watched a live performance of you at the planetarium with What the Stars See. The reaction to that
Yeah.
music, how do you feel about the music you're releasing? I mean, for fans of you, it's like you're kind of going back to that pop punk vibe almost with that track, and it's really awesome. And I feel like you're
Thanks.
you're in a good place and your music's rocking. So
Yeah, totally. I mean, I love that you sent me those pictures in your Hey Monday shirt because I'm going toward that sort of feel with my new album Thrive, which is coming out later this year. It's definitely nostalgic. It's leaning more into really the albums I just talked about, there's a mixture of Shania, there's some Avril, there's some Blink, but at the root of who I am, I'm like a pop punk kid that loves country music, and
Yeah.
I have roots in both genres. So I'm just sort of blending that and doing it my own way. I'm not really chasing a trend or anything. I'm just sort of doing my thing, and
Yeah.
I've loved seeing fans kind of pick up on that. So yeah, I just had another song, Say It First, come out, and I'm working on the third. So yeah, it's exciting times.
Fun times. Yeah, I feel like even with the Hey Monday album, it was, there's country melodies in there. So for you then to, become a country artist solo wasn't a surprise to people. It was like really refreshing, and yeah, it just made a lot of sense. Whereas, it didn't feel
Thanks.
like, yeah, you just blend the two genres perfectly, is what I'm trying to say.
Thank you. Yeah, people didn't know that I even listened to country music, let alone sang it as a kid. So people definitely were like, "Why is she going country?" But I've always sung it and loved it and written like a lot of Hey Monday B-side songs that didn't end up on our records were pretty like country because
Yeah,
that's just
yeah,
always
exactly.
been
Yeah,
my writing sensibility. So
yeah.
yeah, I'm
And
just blending
also
it all.
your track with Icy Stars, I still listen to it all the time. Electric Forest,
Oh,
so
Electric
good.
Forest. Yes. I made
Such,
a Spotify pop punk playlist that's on. So
yeah, so good.
I'm pretty proud of that one.
Lovely. Well, thanks a lot for your time. That's
Thank
it. We're
you.
done. Thank you for being such an awesome guest. I absolutely got through it without, I don't think, any major
You did
hiccups. So I
it.
feel good.
You're gonna do just fine. This is such a great idea, and I know people, are always getting asked the same questions and stuff. So this is a cool new fresh thing for people to do. And I know all of your guests are gonna have the best time because this was really fun.
Oh, thanks very much. Yeah, I spoke to again, crazy mind blown moment, but Jarrett from Bowling for Soup.
Oh my god, that's cool.
He was like, "Yeah, I'll do it." I was like, "Fuck, really?" He's like, "Yeah, yeah, just." And I was throwing out some dates, and he's got, obviously, you can probably understand his calendar is insane.
Oh yeah.
So we just try clashing on dates. But Jarrett, if you're listening, I'm going to get you on here.
I'm ready.
I'm
I
ready
am
for you.
ready.
Cool. Well,
Awesome. Well,
enjoy the
thanks
rest
for
of your
having
evening.
me. You
Yeah.
too.
Cool. Thanks very
Thanks
much. I'll speak
again.
to you soon. See you later.
Sounds good.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.